said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be water, my friend.
Hello, dear flow graders and biohackers, and welcome to another episode of the Flowgrade Show. This one is a great one, not only because of a very intriguing topic, but also a wonderful guest. This episode is about gratitude and how you can use the art of feeling grateful to improve the quality of your life. And my guest is none other than the creator of the 5-Minute Journal and the Productivity Planner, Ramdas. UJ is an expert in behavioral psychology. He's a former hypnotist, and he has been a speaker at multiple conferences, including the Biohacking Conference 2014, where we met for the first time. And he is just a very cerebral person with a lot of insight into these topics. And I was lucky enough to record not only one episode, but two. One, the first one that you're listening to right now, on gratitude, and the second one on productivity. For more information on both of these topics, go to flowgrade.com. But for now, enjoy this wonderful episode with UJ Ramdas. UJ, welcome on the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And UJ is an absolute expert on, I'm focusing on two subjects here, which is gratitude and productivity. And my first question for you, UJ, is what does it mean to be grateful?
So the experience of gratitude is the ability to count one's blessings, or the experience of counting one's blessings. It's being in a state of looking at something as an opportunity in a certain sense, mentally as well as emotionally. It allows you to be resilient to obstacles, because if you look at it, obstacles are just a signal. It's not positive, it's not negative. But gratitude is the ability of the human to recognize that as a positive. It's a very profound thing. Because if you can recognize that the human system can recognize an impulse as positive, and it can transform its worldview by re-encoding that, right? So human beings have fundamentally a need for meaning, right?
So what?
And
Go on. Sorry.
Human beings have a need for meaning, and what gratitude does is it changes the meaning of the experiences one's having in their life to be quite positive.
So why is it that apparently inherently we have trouble as human beings to be grateful? Why do we need to be reminded to be grateful?
Because the human being, the Homo sapien, was designed to survive, not to be happy.
Ah, okay.
Right?
That makes sense, yeah.
We've adapted evolutionally to survive, not to be happy. Right? The human brain is actually wired for fear, because fear keeps us safe and fear keeps us alive. So, which is why it's a ton of work to rewire your brain for happiness. That's a lot of work. That's consistent, constant, everyday work you're going to be doing till the day you die. The good news is the work is compounded, which means the work you did yesterday, is the basis for your work today. And so the harder you work, the better you get, the happier you get, but it's always a constant work.
Is actually on that note, is the feeling of being really grateful, is that similar biochemically to the feeling of happiness?
So again, happiness is a kind of nebulous term, but for the sake of conversation, we can call it well-being. Yeah. So well-being and happiness typically corresponds to a few neurotransmitters, right? So there's dopamine, there's oxytocin, and there's serotonin, and their interchangeable effects are really what feeling good is all about. Different experiences release different ratios and combinations of all three substances, right? And you bring them together, and then you say a human being is happy. So for example, experiences of reward centers are typically more likely to be dopamine based, and experiences of deep connection and love and intimacy are more linked to oxytocin and serotonin. So it really depends on the experience.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so. Gratitude is also a big subject for many meditation practices. So at the end of meditation, I actually do yoga here in Berlin once in a while, and at the end, you practice gratitude. So how do they interact? And maybe a follow-up question: do you meditate yourself, and do you combine these two?
Sure. So I'll talk about. So I have a meditation practice, and I also have a gratitude practice. And they're separate practices, and they're like a Venn diagram. They intersect in the middle. So there's meditation, there's gratitude, they intersect in the middle. And the commonalities are that they're both practices which existed a long time ago, and they still exist now, and they've both been corroborated by science. Science talks about the incredible benefits of both practices, and has been talking about it for quite a while. The second benefit is that it allows you to improve your cognitive functioning. What I mean by that is meditation allows you to process input without interference.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what meditation does is it cleans the glass, so you're actually seeing accurately what's going on out there. What gratitude does is it actually improves the color. It makes everything HD, like it makes everything just beautiful, right? So they're similar. They both improve the experience, but they improve it differently, right? If you're going to have your previous perceptions, it's going to color you, so you got to wipe it off, right? But you also have to have good light. You also have to be able to see color, all of this stuff. So that's the kind of difference.
Amazing. Good. Very, very cool metaphor. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
So how
it was on the fly. That's the first time I ever used it.
No, it totally makes sense. But how often actually do you need to, let's say both meditation and gratitude in order to really get the benefits? Do you do it multiple times per day, or do you?
So I meditate once a day, and I practice gratitude quite a few ways. So obviously I use the 5-minute journal, and I also do something called a gratitude walk, where as I'm walking to the place from where I work, I just think of all the wonderful things in my life, right? And I exist in a state where I'm very sensitive to negative thoughts. So if any negative thought comes, I do my best to move it out, and keep that as a sacred space, as a sacred walk as I'm walking. And that anybody can do that when they're commuting, when they're on a train, bus, walking. It doesn't matter, because that duration of point A to point B, especially the first one in the morning, tends to be a pretty important one. And by the time you get to your place of work, you just feel wonderful. You feel all those happy chemicals, and you do it over time, and your brain gets used to it, and your brain starts to really produce it. And as you know, it leads to the better kind of emotional control. It also leads to better productivity, because happier people tend to be more productive.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of your first product. I assume it's your first product, right? So
yes, the 5-minute journal.
The 5-minute journal, and I made it. It was my #1 Christmas present that I gave away to people this year.
Yeah,
I'm pretty much through my first book right now, and awesome. I do it pretty much every day. But it makes you sort of fill out one page, one part in the morning and one part in the evening. And what's sort of the point behind that at night you remind yourself what you went through? I mean, it makes complete sense, but you do it twice a day, right? This is the...
Yes, the 5-minute journal, it's kind of like a toothbrush for your mind, right? Mm-hmm. So it's something you do as soon as you wake up in the morning and right before you go to bed. The beginning and the end tend to be like two really important times to do a lot of stuff, to set direction, to figure out what we want, and then at the end, evaluate what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're looking at life, the smallest really unit that you can measure in terms of, improvement is about a day, right? It's not an hour, it's too short. It's not an evening. It doesn't make sense. A day makes sense. So having just a couple of minutes of reflection in the morning, a couple at night, and you allow yourself to open and close with more awareness than before. That's it.
Yeah, I love the simplicity of the whole thing. It's just simple. It's you do it only a couple of minutes per day. It's a fantastic gift. It's so simple and so effective that fantastic product. And I'm sure maybe you want to share the craziest thing that you've heard that someone is grateful for. Do you remember that?
I think everything is okay. I don't think there's anything crazy to be grateful for. It's just incredible. Like life is just an incredible thing, right? Like I don't think it's, I guess for me, like I'm really grateful for my motorcycle accident. I had a motorcycle accident about almost 2 years ago.
Oh, okay, wow.
In Bali, so I nearly died. It was a significant experience, but that experience has taught me a lot. And I would not be here without it. I would not be in the position I am right now without learning those lessons, and learning those lessons well. So, in a certain sense, like everything life brings is a gift of gratitude, whether you choose to accept it or not. So yeah, I don't think there's any such thing as a crazy.
It's pretty much a stoic way of looking at every challenge as an opportunity. Yeah. That's really cool. Is there actually a science behind writing something down instead of thinking of it? Is there a major difference that when you lie in bed, you say, I'm thinking of 3 things I'm thankful for, or actually writing it down?
So there is a difference. There's a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini, which is a great book. And I highly recommend people pick it up if they're interested in marketing, in persuasion. If they're a human being, they want to move through life effectively, then influence is going to help, right? And it's the defining book on the research behind the topic. And one of the first principles is commitment and consistency. And what that talks about is people who say they're going to do something and people who write it down have different levels of being able to actually follow through on what they wrote, on what they committed to. And the people who wrote blew past the people who just thought about it in their heads. And I believe the reason why that is because when you write something down, there's multiple things that are happening. You're using your motor skills to actually imprint something on a physical thing. A thought becomes real in a certain sense, even when you write it down.
Okay.
Right? So the thoughts kind of first contact with the reality is with the pen on paper. Right? It's a significant event. A lot of people don't actually think about it that way, but it's become real. Like the first sign of reality experiencing this idea. And then the next part is when your brain sees it, now it externalizes the idea. Your eyes see that idea, see that word, see that sentence, whatever. It externalizes it. And so it recognizes it as a thing. And that's a small but profound thing, especially if done daily over the periods of years.
It makes very much sense. I wonder, what do you think about that? It's on a related topic, but recently someone told me that typing and writing is also very different because we use our thumbs now to communicate.
Correct. So here's what I believe. There's no conclusive data on that, but just because kind of this is our thing, and this is we hear from people who do this on a daily basis. I feel like because there's a split of generations, right? So there's a generation of people that have been used to kind of writing things with their hands. And then there's a generation of people that grew up on devices. right? So since their formative years, their brains are wired to keyboards and laptops and iPhones and tablets, etc. And so what happens is the brain processes it differently. And some people actually, and I know this for a fact, some people have a better feeling when they write on an app or on a tablet, for example, as compared to regular pen and paper, right? And that's completely fine because their brain is wired differently. So the way I think about it, I always say, pick the one you think you're gonna like better, right? Pick the one you think you're gonna like better and try it. Doesn't work, go to the next one. But typically, most people prefer one to the other for sure.
Yeah,
right? I prefer the physical one.
That would have been my next question, because I know you guys have an app as well for the 5-Minute Journal.
Yeah.
And I come from the quantified self sector, sort of into biohacking, and from that point of view, I really like the app idea, because you just collect data and you might be able to correlate it later and put it into context.
Correct.
So, but this is just somehow more romantic, I would say.
To me, it just it puts a smile on my face when I do it. It just it's cute. I like it, and I like touching it and like feeling it and like putting things on paper. I'm very kinesthetic by nature. I like the physical, and that's my thing. And some people love the app. That's their thing. They always want to work with the app. They're always asking about what other features you're adding to the app, etc.
Do you do both, or do you do just one?
No, so I do the physical, and when I travel, sometimes I'll use the app for pictures and this and that, etc. Or let's say I'm away and I know I won't have access to my my physical journal for a day or two, and it's happened. The app is always a good way of keeping it, and then I can always transfer it back. Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Actually, I happen to know that you're a trained hypnotist as well.
Correct.
And I wondered, can you actually make someone feel grateful even though they don't want to?
Well, influence is always a tricky thing, right? And what I mean by that is, influence is always possible. It's about the extent and the duration and the how the sustained impact, right? There can be no sustained impact without consent.
Oh, okay.
Right? No sustained impact without consent, right? There's no such thing. But you can always kind of influence the experience of someone for a very short period of time, right? The more you reduce the duration, the easier it is. So for a split second, easy. A few seconds, harder. Hour, much harder, etc. And then it just drops over time. It's like a reverse exponential curve.
So could you make me feel grateful right now with a trick? This is just
yeah, I can. It's awesome. I can just start laughing, and you laugh because you have like a kind of, we're connected and we're communicating, and human beings have mirror neurons. Right.
All right. So smiling at look, yeah, you already did it. Too simple. I'm such an easy target.
That's it. Then now you'll feel beautiful chemicals cocktail coursing through your blood. Laughter bonds people. It's great. Is
there actually a genetic difference in people of how grateful they can feel?
Yeah, so there is. There's the hypothesis of a kind of happiness set point or a happiness kind of range, and what we know, what kind of the defining prevailing sentiment is that everybody has a range, right? So, and that's genetically predisposed, and after a certain age, it's some or more or less fixed, unless you choose to change it, right? And what I mean by that is, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I want to kill myself, 10 being exceedingly happy, and I want to scream from the terraces of the tallest buildings in the world. There's that 1 to 10, and so let's say some person A has a range from 4 to 7, and person B has a range from 6 to 9. Right? So that's the 3-point spread. It's just genetically, one person is more likely to be happy than the other. Or due to early childhood factors and genes. That's their case. So what we do know is you are able to influence your happiness. It's influenceable, but everybody starts at a different place. Everybody's got a different start point.
Is it possible to shift that whole scale up or down?
There is. So it's possible to shift it both ways. It's just work. Just like I kind of mentioned before, wiring your brain from happiness, it's all work. Because what you're doing is you're basically reprogramming like hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, right? You're reprogramming hundreds of thousands of years. It's not easy work. And same thing with this. So, when you're doing things like meditating, exercising, practicing gratitude, eating clean, and kind of practicing love and affection with your friends, your family, etc. Practicing forgiveness, all of these things together, spending time in nature, things together help you move forward on that scale, right? But if you do certain things, like let's say hang out with unhappy people, or have an addiction. Addiction is like one of the easiest ways, in my opinion, to be unhappy.
Crazy. To anything?
Right? Yeah. Addiction, yeah. Everybody's got a different thing, right? Some people it's drinking, some people it's smoking, some people it's sex, something, whatever, right? Everybody's got their own kind of spin on addiction. Just pick your weakest thing. And if you want to be unhappy, do that. Do that lots of times. Right? It's, in my opinion, that's the shortcut to like unhappiness.
This was part 1 of the episodes with you, Jay. Now, if you don't want to miss part 2, then subscribe to this podcast and sign up to our newsletter. In the meantime, check out our content on flowgrade.com. Thank you all very much for listening or watching, and you'll hear or see me next time.